Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. There are places that change you, not because they're glamorous, but because they become the frame around your life. For Kelly and Mark, that frame was a studio on the Upper West Side where decades of laughter, heartbreak, and ordinary days were filmed and broadcast into millions of living rooms. It wasn't just a workplace, it became a second home where family photos were swapped with production notes, where maternity leave and morning rehearsals braided into parenting. The cameras captured more than interviews. They captured the small human moments that built a family story in public view. And when any place that has held you for years closes its doors, it asks something of you: to remember, to let go, and to carry the best parts forward. A farewell on live television is different from a private goodbye. It is rehearsed and raw at once. Kelly's voice caught in places where she rarely let it. A phrase or two that might have been ordinary on any other day became charged with history. Viewers of a certain generation who remember when morning TV meant a ritual cup of coffee and familiar faces felt it as a small personal loss, as if someone had rung a bell in their kitchen. The reaction across living rooms was immediate. Texts, calls, memories summoned. And yet that same farewell carried a curious energy, not the hollow finality of a closed chapter, but the tremor of something changing shape. People who watched were left with one question: what does it mean when a public life says goodbye to a place that raised it? For many viewers in their 60s, the morning show was more than light entertainment. It was the soundtrack to decades: early career triumphs, quieter middle years, the taste of grandchildren's first stories. When a show that threaded through your life changes, it reflects your own changes. Watching Kelly stand at the edge of that studio was like looking at a family portrait where the edges are softening. It's the recognition that time moves in relentless, often beautiful ways. And when someone like Kelly, who has been a fixture for generations, shows vulnerability, it gives permission for viewers to feel theirs. That shared permission is rare and powerful on live television. Let's be clear, this wasn't a show's death knell. It was a move to a new downtown home, to updated sets, to a future waiting beyond the old skyline. After 37 years in that storied studio, the show's relocation marked the logistics of modern television: new headquarters, new backdrops, different light. But the move felt like a metaphor, too, the sort of life move where you pack silverware and stories and hope the new house preserves both. The headlines called it an end of an era, and in a way they were right. An era of a particular place closed, but the people, the tone, the memory remained. For those who knew the show's history, from earlier hosts to recent pairings, this change was both poignant and promising. Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos are more than co-hosts. They are partners whose personal life and on-screen life have intertwined in ways that have become part of their appeal. Their chemistry on air is the product of decades of familiarity, not just as a married couple, but as colleagues who can read a room without looking. That's why a tear from Kelly lands differently. We sense the private within the public. We see how a life built across decades of performances and quiet off-camera work can make a moment of parting feel ancestral. If you've been married most of your life, you know the peculiar ache of moving on from places that witness your family raise itself. It's not only the loss of space, it's the loss of where stories were written. During that last show in the old studio, producers rolled clips that stitched together nearly 30 decades of mornings, iconic interviews, viral gaffes, the spontaneous laughter that became a daily respite for viewers. Each clip was a key to a memory, a celebrity's quip that brightened a bleak week, a guest who opened up about loss, a musical number someone played as if the whole world listened. Those montage moments were moving because they reminded us that daytime TV has a civic role, a gentle, persistent way of inviting us to take a breath together. And the montage ended on a still frame that felt impossibly tender, a family photo backstage, the sort that looks ordinary until you realize it's ordinary across an entire life. Tears on live television are a rare currency. They break the polished surface and reveal something honest. For audiences who grew up in a world that prized stoicism, seeing a beloved host cry felt like permission to release decades of small, unspoken griefs. Tears remind us that even those who seem invincible on screen are as fragile as any of us. They also remind us that endings are communal. When a familiar anchor sheds a tear, millions do too. That shared vulnerability is a gift. It allows us to grieve and to celebrate at once. And in that moment, the viewers weren't just watchers, they were witnesses to an emotional truth about change, continuity, and the human heart. If you're in your early 60s, you remember a very particular television landscape, the rise of morning shows, the communal ritual of tuning in with coffee, the steady presence of hosts who became part of the background noise of family life. For that generation, the baby boomers, who balanced careers and families, these acts of daily viewing tied.
When Kelly and Mark said goodbye to the studio, it was like those neighborhoods shifted. The response wasn't just online chatter, it was letters to the living rooms of mornings. People wrote about childcare, about working in the early days of television, about how the show's tone matched the arc of their own lives. And that connection is why this farewell resonated beyond celebrity gossip columns. The cameras capture the faces we know. The crew captures the life we don't see. Producers, stagehands, wardrobe, these are people who were in that studio every sunrise and every breakdown. For many of them, the studio wasn't only a job. It was where friendships were forged, where kids played between rehearsals, where anniversaries were celebrated in a cramped break room. Saying goodbye to that space meant saying goodbye to a ritual. The same coffee pot, the same backstage joke, the same route to the parking lot. When Kelly thanked the crew on air, it landed like a benediction. These are the people who keep the show alive, and their memories are the scaffolding that made the farewell feel like a proper homegoing. Those behind-the-scenes stories often include an unexpected cast, the host's children. Kelly and Mark's 3 children spent large chunks of their early years in the rhythm of the studio, arriving with lunches, watching rehearsals, sometimes running in the empty corridors. For their kids, the show's walls were part nursery, part school, and part playground. The sight of family photos and the montage reminded viewers that the studio raised more than a show, it raised a household. That sense of a workplace that was also family is a particular note in modern American life, a reminder that work and family have always been braided for many, and that the places in which we make a living can become places that raise us too. No good story about live TV is complete without a surprise, and that final episode had one. In that tender, sentimental hour, a moment arrived that cut through the nostalgia and jolted viewers into the present. A spontaneous remembrance, a forgotten clip resurrected, a guest who showed up and said something none of us expected. Those moments remind us why live television still matters in an age of streaming. It can surprise you, unplanned, and make you feel present. It can also change the narrative of an entire broadcast in one sentence, and in that change, we see how life continues to offer plot twists, even at the end of an era, missing little things more than big ones. We miss the host's way of stirring tea, the banter over morning headlines, the small private jokes that became communal. When an old routine leaves, what we really miss are those private rituals made public. The way a host smoothed the script when things went wrong, the on-air wink when a segment fell flat, the handshake that meant we got through that together. These small behaviors knit audiences to hosts, and when they end, you feel an ache that's about continuity, the human preference for patterns. That's why a farewell can feel so much bigger than the practicalities of a move. It's the loss of an everyday compass. Nostalgia has a sweet sting. It makes us fall in love with memory and forgive the messiness of the past. For viewers in their 60s, the farewell unlocked a cascade of recollections. First jobs, first apartments, the day a grandchild was born, the moment a spouse changed a life's trajectory. The studio's exit acted as a trigger, sending people into their attics of the mind to pull out tokens of their own lives. That emotional resonance is why the moment was national news. It wasn't just about a TV program, it was a shared doorway back into the lives people built with it. Letting go doesn't always mean defeat. It can be an act of courage. Watching Kelly speak through a cracked voice, or seeing Mark steady a moment with a joke that landed like a hand on a shoulder, we saw something else: maturity. There's a kind of bravery in acknowledging that a place served its time and in choosing to carry its best parts forward. That strength is what many in their 60s respect deeply. After a long lifetime of accumulation, the wisdom of choosing what to keep is often the truest sign of character. The farewell became a lesson. Endings can be gentle teachers if we listen. Television, especially long-running shows, acts as a chronicle of everyday history. Morning shows reflect cultural shifts: music, language, politics, fashion. For decades, that studio documented the slow changes of American life: household habits, celebrity culture, the evolving place of women in the workforce, the rhythms of family life. The end of that studio therefore feels like the closing of an archive. But archives don't die, they travel. Clips, memories, and the ethos of the show live on. The chronicle continues elsewhere, just under a different roof. For viewers in their 60s, ritual has a particular muscle memory. It is how we shape calendars, how we mark time, how we stay connected to a steady world when other areas shift. That's why the ending of a daily ritual, like the set of a familiar morning show, can be unsettling. But ritual also evolves. The same hearts that warmed to those morning voices can find new rituals, new programs, new ways of gathering, new small acts that stitch days together. The important thing isn't preserving the exact ritual, it's carrying the warmth forward into something fresh.